thank you for coming, Brad DeMille. I'm really excited to have you on the Small City Big podcast today. This is great. You've got a long-standing business in Salmon Arm, so I'm really excited to kind of dig into how that all happened and learn more about it. So how about we start with just a little introduction about you and sort of your journey of how you came to Salmon Arm.
Well, my journey was started, I think we moved when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
From Northern California.
Ooh.
We were dairy farmers, not me so much. I was probably fairly useless then. And we moved the whole kit and caboodle. We looked like the Clampetts coming up in my grandma was driving the 5-ton truck and my mom was driving the Dodge Coronet station wagon, loading in the 4 kids and all our worldly possessions, leaving Orland, California to come to Salmon Arm. And we were not happy about it. I mean, generally you leave in California like the allure of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
We were in Northern California though, and it was honestly hot in the summer.
Yeah.
And windy and cold in the winter, but never snow. And it was actually a great decision eventually. At the time, we didn't think it was the right decision, but we came up, Dad and Mom bought a 200-acre farm, largely unimproved, and basically took and started over everything. We had grown watermelons in California next to Sacramento River for a time, and they had done some sweet corn. And I think we were one of the first people to bring sweet corn in the valley. Yes. So I think what started with 10 rows of corn is what we've evolved into now.
Amazing. Obviously I didn't know that piece of that story, and I love that because now the sweet corn whole thing makes way more sense to me.
Yeah, well, the people for a long time thought corn was cow fodder, right? Just cow food. But the new varieties that we would bring up from California, I mean, it was a world of difference then because in the 70s, we had none of what we have now, like communication-wise. Yeah. You were on a rural phone where you got on a party line. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Smith. I'll call back in a minute. And then you lift it up and see if anyone was conversating on that same line. It was hilarious. So you had no way of actually talking to people, even mail. We were probably in the day, 5 to 10 years behind in modernization, like just the trends. Took 5 years to come to Canada, where now it's almost instant. So what was modern in California in the 70s was like not even on the radar in Canada.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. Cool. And so we went from that to this.
Right.
And the first night we moved in, the basement was flooded because there was a water line that broke, and it was like, welcome to Salmon Arm. And then it was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then away we went, so.
And away you went. So you've been here since you were 8 years old.
Yeah.
And did you ever leave?
I left when I was 20.
Okay.
I went to California and Aspen, Colorado, and played around for about 10 years.
Fun.
It was absolutely a kick. What I was missing from the 70s, I regained some speed in the 90s. So I stayed in California for 7 years, and I stayed 3 years in Aspen, Colorado. Just working on skills and waiting tables, and it was a lot of fun.
So much fun.
It was crazy, yeah.
So you went for 10 years, but then you came back.
I actually came up for the summer because I was kind of tired of the same thing over and over. It wasn't a bad Groundhog Day, but it was certainly the same process, and it was not really building relationships. And so I was really good at waiting tables and doing the salesman thing of it. But I wanted to come back to the farm.
Yeah.
And so I came up one summer after we were done the ski season, and I started working for the summer.
Okay.
Negotiated a very low wage for myself. I wasn't a very good negotiator at that time, I guess. And worked at the first summer.
Yeah.
Met Kelly during the summer, my wife.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I left actually that next fall for the next season. We ended up, she flew out to see me in Colorado, and into the most death-defying airport in the world is Aspen Airport. It's like you come in off a cliff and land most of the time.
She really wanted to see
She hates flying. She was like, I could rethink this religion. And then I moved back that next spring permanently.
Okay.
So.
Wow, I love that, and I also love Kelly, so I love hearing this.
Yeah, it was good. We met one day. We were jet skiing. I ran over her. She said I ran over her hood. I don't remember it that way. I think she stopped short on me, but whatever. That's still up for contest still.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so when you came back permanently, did you start working at DeMille's, or can you talk a little bit about the business and the evolution?
What did I do? Well, basically I started off outside field worker, just basically. And I was relearned to plant corn.
Yeah.
Again, look after the corn, weed it naturally instead of using chemicals. So we started to transition away from chemicals.
Yeah.
And then I was also in charge of outside sales. So I could take the corn during its period of time and go to other stores, like at the time Overweighty, go to Vernon, do the deliveries when Kelly and I would go on deliveries and have dinner at Kelly O'Brien's. We thought, we've made it now. We'd have steak. Like, this is great.
That's great.
And it was like we had no idea. But still the low wage never went up. It's funny how that went. Bad negotiating. And so I ended up being the corn guy, and then I grew lots of stuff and learned how to do whatever chemicals we used, and fertilizers and weeding and sales. And I learned the business for outside in.
Okay.
So I didn't learn it from the inside out or by going to any school.
Yeah.
So I learned, just by doing
the land.
Yep, the land up. Yeah.
And I mean, we have like some of the most fertile land. It's amazing. So
yeah, that's crazy. And the reason why we have such good corn and good vegetables is because we have a very thick topsoil, about 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit of sand and then clay. And so when we water stuff, it doesn't just trickle away.
Real.
As you head to like Armstrong and stuff like that, you could water every day and not be saturating the soil.
Wow.
So it makes a big difference, because once you water corn once, you typically always have to water, because you fooled it into thinking it's found the water.
Yeah.
And it stops laying down the plant underneath the ground.
Oh.
And then it goes up to growth, and then that's why it droughts so quickly if you water corn too early.
Okay.
So lots of science behind it, and lots of just remembering what you did wrong.
Yeah, right.
Right the next time.
But you're like, learn from my mistakes. And now, I mean, DeMille's is so much more than corn. Like it is this thriving, tourist place, but it's also this like we live off of DeMille's, like local produce is there. You provide or supply all of our local producers there. Any product, I feel like you're the first person to be like, hey, come and bring it to DeMille's.
Yeah, one of our sayings, if it's in season, it's at DeMille's.
Yeah.
And we really try to be true to that.
Yeah.
I remember stories when Roger, actually, the reason why we ended up in the fruit stand business, originally it was called Fruit Stand.
Yeah.
He had some troubles financially in the high interest rates of the 80s.
Yeah.
And ended up losing the original 200-acre farm. And
really?
The bank settled their debt with, basically they could operate that 69 acres that we're on.
Okay.
We bought an old building from Big Bad John's Fruit Stand in Enderby, hauled it by a semi and sat it down, and that was the start of the original fruit stand. And the garage doors, and after they got it set up, Roger, Dad was telling me that they'd sit on a watermelon bin and wait for customers to come in. Like literally nobody was coming. It took a while. Yeah. So to get business, we would go out, us and the kids when we were 16 and able to drive, we'd load the back of the pickup with sweet corn and go to like Sandy Point and Pierce Point and be like the creepy ice cream guy.
And sell
corn.
Truck.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
and
that.
that's when it's slow days. And so that created a seed, and then, here we are over here. And we would put up illegal signs like we do now. But the Highway Department was a government-run agency then, and they would take them down. And we knew they would take them down. That's why we put them up on Friday, because they don't work weekends. And they would take them down and return them to us on Monday. And we would do the same thing on the same Friday. And so they tried to police us out, and we were persistent. And our dad had lots of bylaws issues that I think he sent the one bylaw, Gord, I can't remember his last name, but I think he sent them to the loony bin because they just were like at odds all the time. And so his persistence and perseverance got it to where we could operate, even though we didn't have the proper zoning for it.
Yeah.
We pushed the envelope to beyond the products that we were technically allowed to grow or sell on farmland.
Right.
Which shows you in today where we have currently 45 employees today, and then in the full summer we'll be like 75, 80 people. And so you took it from an illegal sign to supplying a value of 75 people that have an income, and we teach them how to work.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the value there, I mean, to the community too, like what you bring to the community with your business, it's amazing.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, we have 200 BC suppliers that supply stuff to our store.
Yeah.
When we looked at the farmers market, after I bought it 19 years ago, we looked at the farmers market as a real challenge to our bottom line, because they were largely operating as a cash society.
Yeah.
Where's cash, no debit card, none of that stuff, no accountability, no income tax being paid. And we, instead of fighting them, we invited them in. So saying, well, maybe you don't want to go set up that tent on Fridays and Sundays and every odd Tuesday or whatever it is for 6 months. Yeah. Maybe you want to sell to us primarily and forget that whole thing. Yeah. So we found that more than half of them did that, and their sales went up between 40 and 300%. and they didn't have to take a tent out and crawl their way to the farmers, which they're not salesmen. A lot of them are very artistic and they're proud of what they do, and they just want to be getting their hands dirty and getting that stuff done. And I think that you realize that you can't always have every product available every Tuesday or Friday, because it just doesn't go like that. You have rainstorms, you have wind, you have cold, you have frost, and they realize that us balancing all of these needs of all these growers and having access to it 7 days a week, every hour you're open, is a way better model than 3 days a week for 4 hours. And I think we did a calculation, it was 85% more marketable hours we were offering them. For very little. All they had to do was give us about 10 or 15 points off of their price. We would market it and put our price on it. So
I love that, because that's just, you took your operation and opened the doors to the community and said, hey, let's work together, you know? And I think that's something, Salmon Arm, we talk a lot about community over, what's the word?
Corporations or whatever.
No, community over competition.
Okay.
I was like, wait, what is that? So we talk a lot about community over competition in Salmon Arm, and I feel like that's what you've done. You opened the doors to say, hey, let's be a community. We're going to sell all your products. It's going to be one spot. You do what you can do really well, and we're going to, get it to the...
Well, I think in this world where you're talking about reducing carbon footprint and all of that, if you have one place, instead of going to 30 different farmers and getting your car and going to get eggs, going to get dairy, going to get corn, going to get peas, goodness. I mean, if it's all under one roof, as sort of a loosely cooperative venture. And it makes sense in that regard. The difficult part is the growers themselves don't fully understand retail. Which is great. Because this is what we bring to us. The management of them as their art has to have a structure that you understand, and teaching them, okay, only grow this much. Don't grow an acre of sweet peas. Grow an eighth of an acre every 2 weeks. And have it so you have a long-term gain. And then start thinking about, instead of growing corn in August or July and August and September, why don't we start thinking about standing or growing it for other areas of the year, like the 9 months where there is no BC corn? Why can't we start freezing it and bagging it? And there's opportunity in that, where there isn't anyone doing that now. A little bit at the Lower Mainland, but really nothing in Salmon Arm.
Right. So you're always looking to innovate within the community.
Well, wouldn't it be cool to see like DeMille's sweet corn brand in your Sabons and in your in your Askews, in a frozen department, boil in a bag? Wouldn't that be cool to see that? Where what we're learning in this U.S. trade thing is that why aren't we doing these things? And how come we've been so naive and sort of honestly not very good at what we're doing, like smelting aluminum, giving it all to them to make flat, and then selling it back to us as a value-added product. Why can't we flatten it?
We can do that.
And it's the same thing. Why can't we grow some of these things? Some of the greenhouses that we've seen lately, especially Avery Farms out of Okanagan Falls, had no distributor in the interior. So they were growing lettuce, shipping the pallets to the coast, coming back on Monday and Tuesday. Sort of had 4 days of date on it. So if I get it, they pick it on Friday, I get it for Saturday morning, I start selling it Saturday. And that carbon footprint that went all the way to the coast and all the way back is gone. And then the 32 accounts that I sell to now outside of our retail have access to Okanagan grown lettuces all year round that hasn't been hauled to the coast twice.
100%.
So it makes a big difference.
It does, for sure. Brad, you talked about, so you bought the business 19 years ago off of your family. Can you talk about just like owning that business in Salmon Arm, operating here, community connection, partnership? I know you've given a lot back to the community. I'd love to hear just about like what it's like to operate in Salmon Arm as a business owner.
Well, it's funny because 19 years ago, Jen, at the time, my manager, and we had these great ideas. And so day one was March 16th, 2006. And we're like, 2005, whatever it was. We're like, okay, what do we do now? We don't know what we're doing. And so we started making it up as we went. And we learned that we made more correct decisions than errors. So by that definition, you're a success. We had some of our best, the first 3 years were probably our best profitable years because we didn't have the staff to erode your bottom line. We were doing it all ourselves. And we had just the right amount of sales to satisfy the amount of people. And things change over time, especially costs of everything has eroded the bottom line, especially labor, taxes, fuel, electricity, everything erodes it. So, but our experience in it is that we've made lots of decisions, and that's one thing what makes us so flexible is because even this morning where we put the security up, we had a 15-minute meeting, and then 8 minutes later, the first structural things were starting to go up.
Right.
No committees, no Zoom meetings, none of this garbage that honestly is just a waste of everyone's time. It's a meeting for the sake of a meeting. We don't have that. And so we've learned that to cut that stuff out and have good communication within the staff.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to be a good employer.
Yeah.
I feel that we're a very fair place to work, and we are very inclusive to anyone who has a schedule. We pretty much work around whether it's a family schedule, school schedule, or any of those personal needs. It's not hard. What's hard is trying not to do it and having to expect good employees to return with that attitude.
Yeah.
So if you treat them like they have a life and you have a life and they respect each other, I think that you have good success in that. Running the business in Salmon Arm, generally has been awesome. Honestly, the city, especially recently with our rezoning for the New Orchard property, has been amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I'm saying this absolutely honestly. They held my hand because I didn't know what this would take to get done.
Yeah.
We knew there was a minimum of a year process to get the through the city.
Yeah.
We did it in 8 months. And honestly, they were awesome. The staff and the city council was unanimous there in their support of us trying this new project. It's currently in the LC's hands. We believe it will go well.
Yeah.
But nothing's assured. If anything we're selling is the produce and the stuff that's available in BC is our first priority. And of course, with this anti-US products, which is fine. We need a wake-up call.
Yeah.
We're finding lots of opportunity in Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, in Mexico, places that doesn't have to come from the United States.
Yeah.
We're not there. Global warming's not happening as quickly as we can't grow pineapples here. We can't do bananas. These things have a place to come from. California and Mexico and places like Florida, even Texas, grow enough food for 400 million people. We're like 35 some million people. We're a very small portion of that.
Yeah.
But we can grow a lot of stuff for longer periods of time if we had a better stewardship from our government agencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Okay, so sort of that Salmon Arm lens again with like running the business here. You talked about city, which is amazing. What about other collaborations and partnerships you've created in the community with business?
Well, with all of these decisions, if you don't know something, you usually ask the smartest guy I know. It's probably Bill Laird. And when we met, I hope I can say this, Bill, is that when we met about the orchard, he goes, first of all, Brad, I'm not going to be an investor. And that's fine. And so, but he's given me excellent advice on this particular project. He said, this is going to consume you for at least 2 hours of your time every day for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
He goes, you're signed up for that. He goes, I can't do what you're going to do because you're the only one I know that can do it. Yeah. And that was very complimentary. I'm like, this guy doesn't know me, LOL. And because what he explained to me was, he says, I can't do what you're going to do because I'm not a brand like you are. Yeah. I'm not a farm market. So if we take our DeMille's brand that has spent probably millions of dollars in advertising and supporting it, fueling it, and consistently looking at new and new ideas, we call R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Yeah.
You go to the States like Seattle, at places like that, there's amazing markets there that they do so cool of things. Yeah. And just tweaking the idea and making it our own and making it so you're so far ahead of other people that they're going, hey, they're the guys that are coming to your place to find ideas.
Yeah.
And that's very complimentary. So a lot of the stuff we've done, of course, it has a lot to do with my personal insanity. But the staff and the people and the customers know that this randomness is a unique thing to this DeMille's brand. It's not a structural store that's run by a board of governors. I'm literally the board of governor, the lead bottle washer, the janitor, and I'll go water the plants if I have to.
Yeah.
And when people come in to work for us, they realize that, I'm not just a cashier. I'm a part of this organization that I can do anything, just like Brad. And if I come into work every day almost, and they see that, I think there's a respect for that as opposed to someone running it from the top of the hill, pointing and pushing their soldiers into war when you're sitting in the safety of your own home watching Netflix. Yeah. And that's not what we do. So, and I think the staff is probably our biggest single asset, especially currently. It's amazing how good a job they've done. Even your daughters that work for me, like just that personality that you have, that relationship that we had with our family with dancing, and then everyone knows each other.
Totally.
And it's no problem to yell across the store and yell at someone who's scared. There's a living bejesus at some people, but they get used to that randomness. Yeah, and this is why you don't know what to expect. And when we renovate something, Kelly goes, "Oh gosh, here we go again." You come and go, "What are they up to this year?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's always this excitement. What's the new sign going to be? What's going to happen? And you react so fast to everything. And so whenever there's an opportunity or a challenge, you're there, you're ready, you're putting the sign up, you're doing the thing, you're talking to the right people, you're engaging the community. And so I think you've always been really fantastic at that.
Well, I think currently, like with Spectrum Signs, we have a really good relationship because literally I can call them with an idea that's some short of signs. I'm pretty far ahead now. I've caught up to my brain lapse, is that they were so responsive to get stuff off their computer to the printer and literally have it in days, not weeks, where that time to hit it was long past. And so I'm so far ahead, but it's the professional relationships I have not only with like Bill and the Spectrum and places that my construction guys that we can react to so quickly that it's not delayed. One person called me demanding, but I don't know what demanding is. I'll show them.
Like, you want to see that side of me?
But I think just having to have that good personal contact with them, they realize that you're also demanding, but also your gratitude for them to do a good job.
Well, and you reciprocate that. You know, DeMille's gives back to the community so much. You know, like it's not one-sided. It's definitely a reciprocation. Yeah,
and it's this ton of things. Like with Haney, we sponsor a lot of the food that goes into their theater productions. I've given up at basing sell everything to them at cost, and they can, that doesn't erode their bottom line. It gets them the best vegetables they can get. They have to come get it. And
well, 10 minutes across town.
Well, it's no longer 10. They don't have any lights you hit in this town. Like, there's no traffic. I hit every light. Sorry. But things like that, and even going with like Bollywood and stuff like that. Buying a $5,000 bear, which I have 3 of them now, like at least 2. I'm not sure where they are, but I don't have the $10,000, which is, it's just part of that margin that you created in the store by having the customers come in. So they're indirectly supporting themselves also. And I'm just the sort of the intermediary between us.
Well, we talk, I've said this a few times now on the podcast that, the local dollar. So there's a statistic out there. If you spend a dollar locally, 63 cents comes back into the community. And that's like, I feel like that's a good representation of DeMille's. You're, connecting with the hockey teams, you're participating with, you're sponsoring the dance stuff. Like DeMille's is always around. It's always doing something.
We tried to take our fundraising. Everyone was sick of eating pies. Nothing against pies, don't get me wrong. But how many more are in your freezer that you don't even know of how many pies you have? But so we did it a little differently, is that we have an orange fundraiser. So we get the team to come out. They do the sweat equity. So they sell all the tickets to people. They were getting, I think they were selling for 15. I get 10 back. They retain 5. And they had to come do the labor. And I just supplied the product. And it gets my name out there. The customer has to come into the store to get the bag of things. So I'm also sampling them by making them, or enticing them to come in and pick up their orange. But you can eat an orange every day. I don't think you should eat pie every day.
I don't know. Maybe you should.
Well,
life is short.
Orange juice on it or something like that. But I think that just showing that healthy part of it, and then the connectivity that the kids have doing an event like that, it's a bit like managing water, because it's like wants to go everywhere. But most of the teams have done really well. Like the sock guys, I know this is their 2nd or 3rd year, and they're stoked. Like $5 is real money. And so you sell 100 bags, you get $500. Sweet. I think they raised, I think, $1,700 or something this year, so it's well worth it.
I love that. That's great. You've talked a little bit about the evolution of DeMille's. You've talked about this location uptown. There's going to be people listening to this that don't know what's coming. Do you want to share a little bit about, you've had this business for many, many years at this one location in Salmon Arm in the west end of town. What's next for DeMille's?
Okay, well, this is our 51st 4th year in business.
Wow.
Kind of loosely, it's not the same as it was in the 70s, obviously. Yeah. But we've been selling fruit and produce for literally 54 years. I've been responsible for a little over 19 years.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years, hopefully by next April, we'll have a building to move into on 29 acres, which is the old Hannah property next to McDonald's on top of the hill.
Yeah.
We're 8 or 9 months into the process now, waiting for the ALC, which is Agricultural Land Commission, to give us their blessing to use 3 acres for non-farm use, which is the building, operation area, parking lot.
Yeah.
Pretty standards, but they have to give us their blessing or else it's dead.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happens. But let's not go down that road.
Let's not go down that road.
We believe in our heart that we are sincerely the people that should steward that land. Yeah. When we took over the orchard a year and a couple months ago, we had the worst codling moth infested orchard in North Oregon Tree Shrub. In less than 6 months, I took it to in the top 5% of the cleanest orchards in BC.
Wow.
And my head epidemiologist, I think that's what they call it, Evan Etch, said in the history of the SIR program, Cereal Insect Release, nobody has ever turned an orchard around that quickly.
Wow.
And they sent me a letter of commendation to the LC saying that these guys are real.
Wow.
And just getting out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning is not that bad, unless you're coming home at 5. Yeah. But getting up at 5 is very peaceful. There's nobody moving around, and you do your stuff on there to bring the sprays and get your bugs under control.
Yeah.
So moving up to that property, we're having some challenges just with that property that we're on. Yeah. So we found that these 29 acres will be our new home.
Yeah.
And we feel that we've got a really good business plan.
Yeah.
It's a bit of money.
Yeah.
It was what I was expecting to do, but we think that moving up there uptown is going to be. I think people will be very proud of what we do up there.
Yeah,
it's going to be a ton of fun, a load of work. But the important part is, just like my staff, I'm not doing this by myself.
Yeah,
I'm doing it with a collective of people. Plus, a lot of the customers will be there to be patient with us.
Oh yeah,
some assembly required kind of thing. Like in the old days, '95 when we did that building, we had 2x12 planks over ditches, people walking and still shopping. We never closed the day. I don't think you get away with that now. We have that we might have 2 boards. Really splurge. And it was funny because we never even had shopping carts back then.
Right.
And I don't even know hand baskets were a thing. I can't remember. Maybe a wheelbarrow was what we had.
Oh.
But it was pretty bare bones. It was very successful.
Yeah. And
we feel that with the brand that we've developed, my management team, the contact, and all the stuff that we do, we believe that our presence on that property will not only make it so it can be an orchard for the next 100 years, but also have someone that can utilize the apples and the open land, because we're planting 5 acres of pumpkins, 2 acres of squash, and it's all going to be you pick.
Fun.
I'm not picking it for you.
Yeah.
You get a cheap price because you're the labor.
Yeah.
And you come out and pick it up, and that's why pumpkins at $5 each, no matter what size.
Yeah. Sweet. So great. 5
big wheel. I'm buying 30 wheelbarrows, so you can so we're probably getting $5 each or 3 for 10, and the same as the squash. Okay. So you'll just be able to collect them, and so you get the kids there. And I have 11 different varieties of pumpkins this year.
Fun.
So from black ones to white ones to orange ones to pale ones to warty ones to big ones to small ones to edible ones. There's all kinds of pumpkins.
So fun.
So I'm ambushing you and your 4 kids, and your dad's gonna have to push the wheelbarrow when it's full, because you're probably not gonna buy 3. You're probably gonna buy 6, and then there's 9, and now why not 12?
Yeah.
And so everyone's what am I gonna do with 12 pumpkins?
Decorate the forge, man. 100%. Carve them.
And then take the seeds and roast them and have that, or throw them in your compost and grow your own next year.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that, and plus I want to make sure that it's an affordable thing, because pumpkins shouldn't be $10 each. It's really not that hard to grow. If you have the land, the water, fertilizer, and the know-how to keep the weeds out, you're away.
Well, I mean, I think about affordability. You at DeMille's, you've got, you do a seniors day, you do family day, and you give a healthy 20% off both of those days to people. And you're always trying to, do best prices and all that. So again, I think about that community and, that reciprocation. People come because they know it's a great product and because you're giving back to the community.
Well, one of the things we changed about 2 years ago when we realized we had to leave is that we started My orange import license, we expanded into more products from the U.S. when it's not available from Canada. So we were able to buy things for about half price what we were selling or buying them from before.
Yeah.
And we were able to. We have 32 outside accounts we sell to that we deliver 2 trucks, and we're on the road pretty much every day of the week. And we found that our quality's higher, prices are lower, and our customers are happier. And everyone that's coming in, especially like on Seniors Day, like seniors is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's very unsafe in the parking lot. But that being said, and I'm driving, I'm like, boy, I wish people would hurry up. I'm like, oh, great, I got a sign on the side of my truck. And they're very slow moving in tight situations. And maybe my parking lot's not big enough for all the seniors in town. No, not on Seniors Day. But then you get young families on Sunday, and it's like a race car. The difference in pace is quite substantial. It's quite substantial. But you got some of the older drivers in the world that are still driving. Bring in the 4 non-driving people, and there's a collection of them walking around. And I swear to God, we get more canes in Lost and Found than I can ever imagine. Like, they come in with a limp and they leave feeling good. I don't know what it is.
It's the product. The product is the energy. It's the vibe you've...
And I have some nice canes. Like, these things are not cheap. I think there's like 12 in the office ready to go for your next victims.
Well, maybe they'll come and return them.
I'll have a yard sale or something.
A yard sale. Oh my gosh. Okay, so a good understanding, I feel like, of DeMille's, which is amazing. You've done, we've talked about some reciprocation within the community, all the things you do, which is wonderful. What do you do in Salmon Arm for yourself? Like, when you're not at work, I know that's probably like, when are you not at work? But when you're not at work, what do you do in Salmon Arm? What keeps you busy?
Well, this last year's been a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
Since I have now 3 jobs, we're doing the wholesale, running the retail, and now I'm an orchardist. And honestly, I didn't know that much about orcharding. I knew how to do chemical compounds and doing that math based on my field crop experience.
Yeah.
But the challenge is with that is that a lot of the stuff comes from the sprays come from the States, so they're formulated in standard measurement. Yeah. And in Canada, we're using the metric system, sort of. Yeah. And then they give you, you have 20 ounces of spray to go over 2 hectares at 3 miles an hour at a bar rate. And so you got to do all this conversion. And it's like, holy man. And then, so I have smart people, smarter than me, that are orchardists. Alan Gatsky out of Lake Country, and Jane Tan has been a great help to me. Tom Davidson out of Vernon, just qualifying my math to make sure it's correct. Yeah. And so far, I've been very good at it. And I write it down. And I also have text messages, so I'm like, that's right. And so what do? I don't have a lot of time for that yet. Yeah. Like last week was 7 12-hour days. It was a long week last week, and this week is not shaping up in the days. When it rains, it's like, thank you. And yesterday was supposed to rain, and I couldn't take the afternoon off. But we go to the lake once in a while, to Okanagan Lake, and once in a while to show up to Branton Pond Jumbo for the day.
Oh, fun.
And we'll probably do that at the end of June. Yeah. Get away for the day. Yeah. And just hit it. One of the things that we realize as DeMille's, as a unique supplier, is that we're open where everyone else wants to be closed. Yeah. And so your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Mondays, and every holiday, we're there because that's our best day. Yeah. Largely because everyone else has given us the ground to operate with no real competition. So we looked at that same model when we looked at our exporting and our deliveries. Yeah. No one wants to deliver on Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday, and no holidays. Right. So they're giving me 40% of the week in which to operate when nobody else wants that territory. Right. And so we've been able to change a lot of these produce guys' bigger stores ordering habits. Because when you think of it, you're a produce guy, and I have to think on Thursday what I'm going to do for the entire week at my busiest part of the week, and guess what we're going to have until Monday. Yeah. Well, I can offer a solution to that. You don't have to do that. You just do it like it's a regular thing. I'm your Saturday, Sunday delivery. I will fill in those voids. You don't have to order long. You don't have to order short. You don't have to make a mistake. So it's making these produce managers' job a lot easier. Perfect. And it's making their departments look more profitable and much better as far as the quality, because they don't have to hold for literally almost a week before it sells. Yeah. And so what else do I do? We have a mountain bike. I think it's in my garage still. It's beautiful. It's red, but that's it. We're hoping to put a little personal small pool together, but I can't even get out there to level the sand yet. I'm like, how hard is this?
I feel like your life and business has become just your life. Like you live the land of Salmon Arm. You farm the land of Salmon Arm.
And I actually understand now that the orchardist thing is in my life now. I see why a lot of the South Asian and other like the old Greek guys that used to do the I see why they would go back to like India and Greece the entire winter, like November, December.
Yeah.
Like just you've done so much for 8 months that you're literally just done.
Yeah.
And you go back, whether you're back to your homeland or your roots, you just get away from the orchard and let the thing just set. And there's nothing to do anyway.
Here's the moment.
And let winter have its way. And then I think, so if I could do that and not have to go back to the DeMille's, but if we were moving and building a building next year, it's going to get worse.
You're just getting busier.
Yeah, I think so. And at some point, you just got to do what you can do.
Yeah.
And don't stress out about it. An old an advisor of mine, Roger Ailes, he passed away. I asked him one time after I bought an asset that I was like having stress about. He goes, how do you handle the stress? And he goes, well, if you made the decision to do it, stick with it and don't question it, because you were the only one that made that decision. And if you're backing out on it and you're unsure, you shouldn't have made that decision then. And he said, but you may not be that person. You may not be that person that can make that decision.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but he's basically, you have the confidence to make that decision.
Yeah.
Stick with the confidence they made that decision and don't question it.
Yeah.
Make it work.
Totally.
And don't whine about this to me again.
I love that. I don't even have to ask you about business advice. I don't feel like is it.
You know, I've learned so, because I honestly, when we started, I didn't know how to run a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah.
I was like thinking I did, and I did reasonably well.
Yeah.
And so again, what we've done is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I lose sight of it because it's such a big operation now, but I'm largely responsible for the lives and the livelihood of at least 75 people in the summer. All that they affect and all the people that come to shop, we affect that. And the impression we leave with them of having all this quality stuff that we can assemble in one roof, I think it's pretty cool. And I forget that sometimes because I'm just nose down to the end. Go.
I'm going.
So, and then like tomorrow or later today, we're going to lay down plastic mulch and drip tube for our pumpkins up at the orchard. And that's a new thing. I've never done that before. Okay. So this is the first time I went down to South Okanagan and in Vernon and went to the farms and saw how they were doing it. Yeah, and R&D, rip off and duplicate. And I think I'm going to do a better job than they are going to, because my soil is absolutely ready. Because we put about 90 tons of chicken poop up there.
Woo!
Yeah, and it's
local chicken poop.
Oh yeah, from down here at Penner's Farm,
Okay.
and also by the hatchery next to the First Nations Road, and it stunk. And welcome to the neighborhood, and it was rank. Like it was like I was loading the manure in the little manure strider we had, and the meth. It was horrible. Oh, no. It was on my. I have new boots now, by the way, because I couldn't get the smell up, and the dog was rolling in. He should come in and he'd go to the house. I'm like, here. He'll say, what? And it stunk the whole day for about 4 or 5 days, and now it's in the soil, and you can't smell it. At least I can't smell it anymore. Of course, I could have been the acid burning my nostrils stuff, but that's all part of the farming, rebuilding the soil back to a condition that was going to support those kinds of things. So, and then the neighborhood knows we're there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Every year, they're gonna know we're there.
They're gonna know we're there. Do you have a hidden gem in Salmon Arm that kind of, is your place? Like you feel really good there, and it's.
I like, you know what, going into Margaret Falls twice a year, especially when it's ripping.
Yeah.
It's so cool because I remember when that one year wiped everything else out. I remember this when we first moved here. My grandma, and she had really bad rheumatoid arthritis, and we were walking up to Margaret Falls. It was a bit more challenging then.
Yeah.
We had to walk over logs and do this kind of stuff. Yeah. But she always loved going there, and even though she was almost to a point where she was crippled or had one of the canes that came from our store.
Yeah.
She would always try and go there at least twice a year. And I think that and for us now it's like a walk in the park. Yeah. The funny thing is when I helped move them to California, I was driving them down there because they weren't capable of driving that far with all their, again, reverse clamp. That's gringy.
Yeah, you were going back.
And so we stopped at a Denny's, and there was a $2 American bill on the ground. Yeah. And she put her foot over it, looked around, bent over, and then she continued to hobble into the. you've been thinking the whole time. No, and she's like, and it was like, all she did was the proper motivation.
Well, look at that $2 bill or Margaret Falls.
Sat down, I bet was all like, huh. Straight. I remember that story because when Grandpa took over driving, I'm like, oh.
That's really funny. That's awesome.
So that would be my hidden gem.
That would be your hidden gem. Okay, lovely. And just like sort of closing on like the business side of things, if somebody was thinking about coming to Salmon Arm and starting a business, what would sort of your advice be about that? You've got a lot of, you've done lots of community partnerships. You work really well with other organizations that help business support. And you've got a long-standing, very well-run business in the community. So I think your advice to somebody would be?
Well, I think Salmon Arm is a great place to live. We have a lot of things. When we look through Salmon Arm's view from outside eyes,
yeah,
that makes any sense. You forget what we see every day. You take it for granted. Walking 2 rows into the orchard, into those trees, and how green and lush we made it, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, and the trees, they kind of welcome you.
Yeah.
And I think that if I was to say anything, it's challenging.
Yeah.
The world's a tough place on businesses. I would give advice on places where I think we have needs.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity in the food business.
Yeah.
I think we're in our infancy learning what we're doing wrong. And I can tell you what we're doing. We're doing so many things wrong. And we're so inefficient in Canada, especially BC, because even shipping stuff from Pasco, Washington, I can get a whole truck for $1,800 Canadian. I can't get half truck from Vancouver for $1,800 plus fuel surcharge.
Right.
So why is that? So your cost of moving stuff around is a lot higher. There's opportunity in the delivery and the delivery of food.
Yeah.
And also value adding that food where it's a raw product. What can we make out of this that's better? Because everyone in the world has blueberries at the same time, and everyone seems to run out of blueberries at the same time. So there's an opportunity in that supply that, again, going into the Canadian stuff, buy Canadian and try and keep your prices a little bit lower by doing it more localized. So instead of shipping all your eggs and milk to Vancouver to be pasteurized and graded and that's just silly. There's just no other word for it besides just plain stupid. And letting all these bigger centers, when the floodemic came in November, where we lost all the Coquihalla was washed out, we still maintain 60% of the food that we had because our food is sourced up and down our valley, not from Vancouver and not from Calgary, and not from the United States for sure in that period of time. Most of these other stores, and this is where we saw this wholesale opportunity, most of these other stores had 1 or 2 days of regular volume inventory on their shelves at that time. Right. So if you triple your business, you have 1 day on the shelf. That's it, you're out. And there was no way for them to resupply because it was coming from through Vancouver, unless it came down through, I think it's the 2 or the 70 through Washington. We have a bigger cooler than anybody else in this interior, and we call our little wholesale an hour 20 because we go to Revelstoke, we go to Lumbee, we go to Vernon. We're only an hour 20, so we're in the middle of this hub, and we come in and go back very efficiently. Yeah. If there was more of me in, let's say, another hour and 20 away on the other side, they would have that opportunity too. And I think that there is definitely more opportunity there. Yeah. We've seen substantial growth this year. We almost doubled our sales again this year on our wholesale, which is, we don't even know if there's a saturation point, like where that cap is. Right. When we started selling oranges, we started selling, I think the first year was 300 pounds. Yeah. We did almost 500,000 pounds of citrus this year. 500,000? Yeah, 500,000 pounds. Wow. Nuts. That's crazy. And so the guys at the coast know that it's hard to sell an orange in the interior because we basically, and this is just us, one little company runs the citrus in the interior. And I was like the mafia. I'm like the orange mafia. The orange mafia. But we've got a better product to you. And I think that's the reminder. Don't settle for meh. And I think that you get into that with fast food restaurants. They do such a good job to start with. And then they race to meh. Yeah. And I think you always try to do the most exceptional job you can and question and always walk in your front door as a customer. Yeah. I don't think a manager should be allowed to enter through the back office door. Always come through the front door because you're going to notice the cobwebs, the dirt where the wind blew it in. You're going to notice the stuff that's not right. Right. And this is what we've always said is that go outside, look in and start over your day.
Yeah.
And I think that employees walk through the front door, they see it.
Yeah.
And then you ask them what they missed, and then they go back, and that reminds them.
Yeah.
Makes them better, more conscious of what their workplace is too. So,
Yeah.
and whether they start a business in town, it's a great place to be. Lots of very supportive of folks in town. And loyalty is not hard to do in this town as long as you're consistent with your product.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's right. What you do is, I don't know what else I'd say. It's hard. It's hard being a business person.
Yeah.
Some days it's not fun.
Yeah.
Some days I try to smile a little bit every day. Some days I just laugh at myself and walk out the door. This is there's a couple of words that I could say, but I think it's challenging. But developing professional relationships with people that help you, it's important to treat them with the respect that you think you deserve, because they will help and not break or break you.
Yeah.
Because you can get stalled in City Hall by being an ass. And right now, so don't do that.
Yeah.
You treat them with the respect that you want, and work with people. Yeah. Everyone's got not an agenda, but everyone's got work to do.
Yeah.
And have a respect for that.
Yeah.
So.
Very good advice. Very good advice. I feel like that was like a whole course. That was a mini course on running business.
Yeah, don't.
Okay, so Brad, we're gonna come towards the end of this podcast, and we do this thing called rapid fire. So there's a few little questions I'm going to throw at you. They're meant to just be on the spot. I never prepped you for these, so they're just gonna be right to the viewer from you. So the first one is, Salmon Arm has a tagline. It's small city, big ideas. If you were to rebrand the city tagline to be small city, big, what would it be?
Well, when they first did the thing, I didn't like it. It's better. It's sitting with me better now. I think I had a phrase. It was big city, bad ideas. And then I learned to grow with it, because I like the old logo better, personally, with the amount I did in the silhouette. I thought that was great. And I wouldn't know how to change that, so I can't answer that.
So you can't answer it?
No. Great Lakes.
Big Lakes?
Yeah.
Salmon Arm, small city, big lakes. Hey, it works. This might be a hard question for you, but it might not be, because you talked a lot about the one product. Apples or oranges?
Well, apples are a longer period of time through the year.
Yeah.
So they're probably a better, more valuable system for Canadians.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to buy everything from the States. So it'd have to be an apple.
Really?
And there's many varieties of apples that are so good now. Yeah. Like my Honeycrisp on that hill, we only had a small portion, because when you trim up trees off, it goes biennial.
Okay.
So the blossom, so next year's apple is developed in this year's wood growth.
Oh,
It's called a spur.
Yeah.
And it's developed, like right now it's developing. That's next year's apple.
Right.
It's nuts. And I had no idea. So I would have to say apples, because we can sell a BC apple pretty much for 6 to 9 months a year.
Yeah.
And an orange always has to be imported.
Right. Okay. Okay, well, that's a good answer. I always really love apples with cheese. Like, you get a nice local cheese and a good apple.
Well, just wait till we're working with the candy ball, hopefully, to get to the candied apple of this Salmon Arm candied apple. We're working on a way that when you get a candy apple from DeMille's and a candy ball in coordination, it's going to be like this thing that you have to come to Salmon Arm for.
I love that.
And I think if it could be a candied Honeycrisp just grown on the Hannah property, made with Candy Vault's expertise on caramel.
Yeah, that would be.
It's going to be something like.
You need to retag it. Small city, big apple.
I like it. There we go. Big apples.
Big apples. Do you want to give so I always think about local heroes. So a shout out to a local hero. It could be a business. It could be a family member. It could be somebody who just influenced you or has supported you. A local hero.
I think for me, top of mind would probably be Sunny Dollywall.
Ooh, nicely done.
Yeah, he gives, when he was walking in on the Bollywood, seriously, he was like a WWF rock star. And they did it so well, and his connections and just how professionally, and it wasn't grossly slickish. It was just authentically Sunny D, and it was just so cool. I was so proud that he's doing that. And the money, $500,000 he raised.
That's insane. Yeah. And so right back into the community.
And every time he looks in my eyes, I'm like, this is going to cost me. But I think Sunny does an exceptional job. And you know what? Another fellow that probably doesn't get as much credit is Patrick Riley on the radio. He really works hard. Yeah. He's a quirky man, And he's got interest. Somebody listening on the radio and go, what are you talking about? But you know what? He sincerely cares about this town deeply.
Yeah.
And I think that he is someone that I think it's quite a valuable person in this town.
Nice. Those are great. I love that. Okay, if you could pick one transportation for the rest of your life, car or tractor?
Tractor.
100%.
I have 3 of them now. I'm a mogul, and they're all little. So I'm driving this little 50 horsepower tractor and when you're in it, it feels like I used to drive like 250 horsepower tractor doing all the field work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the cab size is literally the same. And then I get out and I look back, I'm like, I'm embarrassed. And you feel like you're in this big 250 horsepower tractor, you're in this little 50 horsepower little toy. It's funny, but it does quite a bit of work.
Yeah.
And what you can do with a small tractor, honestly, is so impressive. And it's so fun for men and then women too. I'm not going to say it's just one thing, but when you're a loader operator or a bobcat operator,
yeah,
there's nothing more fun in the world than that, because you are literally you're in a toy that you're working and getting paid for, and it's so fun to do because it's so rewarding. You go in, it's a pile and a mess, and with your skills as a front-end loader at hand-eye coordination, you can do so much.
Show.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well, tractor it is then. Brad, thank you. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's really nice to learn a little bit more about DeMille's and what you've done for the community, and just learning about, life in Salmon Arm with Brad DeMille.
Thank you. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that was great. Thank you so much.